Hey Katt.
Hey Sam.
I'm wearing a jumper that says hey on it.
Oh, I love it. I want one. Where did you get that from?
From New Look. It was like the Anne Marie collection, but it's got a stain on it. I just washed it and it hasn't come out because it's like
Oh mate,
white.
I've got some really good stain remover actually. After this,
Yeah,
I'll give you the name of it.
showing my stain.
Honestly, it works. It works on anything.
Oh,
It's
does it?
literally like miracle stuff. I'll give you the name of it. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Anyway, today I thought we can name it like reacts to, even though we're not watching it, but we're talking about introducing Selma Blair,
Yeah.
which if anyone doesn't know what it is, should we give a quick explanation?
Yeah, it's a documentary on Selma Blair and her MS
Yeah.
essentially. um, yeah, some people don't know who she is, but she's been in what's she been in?
For all
Uh,
intentions.
Cool Intentions is like her most famous.
She was in Legally Blonde, weren't she?
Yeah, she's in. I can always go to say Clueless, and I'm like, no, it's not Clueless. It's Legally Blonde. And then
Yeah.
what else? She's in like Hellboy, is it as well?
Yeah, I think so. She was in an
Um,
episode of Friends. Do you remember?
I,
She's the one
yeah,
that tries to hook up with Chandler, isn't she?
yeah,
Yeah.
I really remember. I do
Yeah,
remember.
she's an actress essentially, isn't she?
Yeah,
And
she
I
is.
guess maybe a model. Like I feel like she's done a lot of modeling.
Yeah, I was saying to Matt last night. I was like, she's so beautiful. Like,
Mm.
she has such a like unique
Look.
look about her. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful human.
But yeah, so we both watched it individually, didn't we? Kat, you've watched it twice, did you say?
I watched it again last night. So I watched it the first time on my own, and then I watched it with my boyfriend last night, and I cried both times.
So how did you feel prior to watching it? Like, because the trailer came out for it quite a while ago, didn't it? Like before it
Mm.
came out, it was sort of announced, and I know it had like mixed reviews, not reviews, but like mixed emotion, like feelings, didn't it, in the MS community? Like some people were like, "Hell no, I don't want to watch it." Some people were buzzing for it.
I was buzzing for it. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't wait for it to come out. I really, really, really was looking forward to it. So for me, like Selma, I was made aware of her like pretty early on. Like when I was diagnosed, it was just before I've said this on a previous episode, it was just before she walked the red carpet with her cane.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of all over social media. And obviously at the time, because I'd just been diagnosed, I was like looking at multiple sclerosis
Mm-hmm.
things, and she was just coming up loads. And it was just like quite interesting for me to kind of hear her story, and so a lot of it reminds me of myself and my own journey, so I kind of have a special place for her in my heart anyway. And I think she gets a lot of bad rap in the community. I've seen some awful things said about her, and I just think it's the thing for me is it's like people are like, oh, she shouldn't be the face of MS. Well,
Why?
she didn't ask for that. Do you know what I mean? She's, in my opinion, she's just like us. She's just another person with her own MS. And
Yeah, the way I look at it as, like, we're all different people. It's like they think like, oh, you all have MS, so you're all gonna be like a carbon copy of each other. Like you're all the same. We're all still different people. And she is who she is. She's quite an eccentric person, I think. You know? That's just her. So that's just her living her life with MS. You know, like I think too many people probably dislike, I don't know, it's like they're sort of merging it into one, aren't they? They're like, oh, she's being a certain way with her MS, but I'm like, no, she's just being herself when she
yeah,
has MS. Like it's
she,
just two different things almost, you know.
yeah, she's just living. She's just trying to get on with her life, like we all are, I think. And I've seen people. I've actually written this in my notes about kind of sort of the bad sort of stuff I've seen about her. They're like, I remember being, when we first knew each other, some people speaking about her in a MS
Mm-hmm.
support group. And I actually added Sam to this conversation because I was furious at the time. And it was like, just people taking the mick out of her. She'd done like a high fashion shoot or something for Vogue, didn't she? And she had a bum out. And I
Oh
think,
yeah, that
and
was
the
it,
photo,
wasn't it?
yeah, the photos were lovely. Like, they were high fashion. It was high fashion photography. And there was all these people with MS slagging her to fuck. And I was just like, excuse me, like, and the description of the group was like, we welcome anyone with MS kind of thing. Like, this is the group rules were like, no, nothing nasty. And I said to them, didn't I? I was like, what if she wanted to join this group? Because she has just as much right to be in this group as any of us. So how is it okay that you're picking up and literally picking apart her body as well?
I was gonna say, and it wasn't anything to do with MS, was it? It was a fashion shoot. Like anyone,
and like,
yeah,
and people being like, oh, I think someone said, oh, she's got a saggy bum or something, and I was just like, how fucking dare you? Like, absolutely not. Like,
internet for you, isn't it?
Yeah, she's just a human being with multiple sclerosis trying to get by, in my opinion. And I've seen people say things about, oh, she's of course, yeah, she does have privilege. Of course she does. She's a fucking actress. But do we hate on people for having access to things that we don't? No, it shouldn't be like that.
No.
The system in general is horrendous. But actually, from what I've seen of her having like a stem cell transplant, people raise money for their own stem. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, why would you hate on someone just because she's famous?
Loads of people that aren't rich and famous have had that as well.
So. Yeah, exactly. So I just would never begrudge anyone with our illness for having access to things. Yeah, it is, it's frustrating if you don't have access to them too, but I don't know, it just makes me sad seeing people say nasty things about other people, and I just don't think, especially in her case, it's just absolutely not warranted, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I was looking forward to it coming out because I was just really curious as to see a bit of a glimpse into her life and her own MS, and I knew it wasn't going to be kind of dressed up, and it wasn't. I don't think, from what I saw. Like, what did you think before it came out?
This sounds really like not bitchy, like, well, bitchy's not even the word. I was a little bit indifferent, like I was like, one day I'd be a bit like, oh, I really want to watch that, and then the other day I'd be like, oh, that looks, because the trailer is pretty hardcore. It's like,
I think
they've taken every hardcore moment from it and they've put it in the trailer. So I was a bit like, oh, I don't know, like, but not through being like, not so much that it would, I mean, maybe that it would scare me a bit, but I think it was more that I was just like, I respect how different everyone's MS is. And I was a bit like, do I want to watch something that might lead me down a path of like, what if that happens to me, or what, or that, I don't know, like, I wasn't sure. I wasn't against it, but I wasn't like, oh my God, like, I can't wait for that to come out, which then is ironic because I literally watched it the day it was released, like an hour after it was released. I know. It's because whatever day it was released, Frank, because I knew I just wanted to watch it on my own. Like, I think I said to a few friends maybe that week, I was like, yeah, probably will watch it. And they were like, oh, don't watch it on your own, don't watch it on your own. And I was like, no, I think I'd just rather, because I just want to sit, I just want to watch it, and I want to feel how I want to feel. And not that Frank wouldn't, but me and Frank have been together 10 years and we live together. Like, he lives it. I don't feel like he needs to watch somebody else that he can't personally relate to. I don't know, like, it didn't, if he ever wants to watch it, by all means he can, but it wasn't one of those things that I was like, oh, I want you to watch it with me. Does that make sense? Because I just feel like he doesn't need to. Like, he lives with me, he knows what it's like, he's been there since I was first diagnosed. I didn't think he needed to watch it. I don't know. But I'm glad he did anyway, because I liked having my own little space with it. So yeah, he was out that night, so I was like, what should I do? I was like, oh, I know, I'll watch the Selma Blair documentary because it's just come out. So yeah, I watched it as soon as it came out. And yeah, spoiler, blood, that baby. Like, literally the whole way through it.
Same.
Like, what's your first note that you wrote down?
I just put about the tiny rubber hands because it was just making me laugh. Like, I just like her I just like her humour. It's just like when she said about
Kim Kardashian.
No, it was when she said about people accusing her of appropriating and saying that she was I can't remember how she worded it, but she was like, I have a disability, and if your disability is having tiny rubber hands
like that are literally this big, and she was like, then yes, it is funny. That's what I mean. Yeah, in the first like few minutes I was like, oh, I really like her. She just like says it as it is. I liked that she was like, oh, I've got some makeup from Kim Kardashian. Like, I bet no one really knows who she is, so I'll use it.
Yeah, I
But my
enjoyed it.
first note that I wrote, because I just wrote like bullet points as to like kind of how I was feeling and what reflected as it. The first thing I wrote is it just says first 5 minutes crying. Like I literally started crying in the first 5 minutes.
Me too.
I was like, what is going on? And it was when she was, so not so much when she was like you said, joking around and the introduction. It's when she first then sat down in the chair and she started talking. I didn't even write what it was she was saying. I just started crying. I was like, oh no, it's going to be a long hour and a half.
Yeah, I was exactly the same, mate. I just, yeah, pretty much as soon as it came on, I was like, I had tears in my eyes. Then she
Yeah.
just sat down and started talking, and I was just gone. And it was when obviously her speech went, didn't it? So, and that was for me, like that's what happened to me in a relapse. I couldn't talk, and it was like watching her. I was like, oh, like, and that's what I think I find. It's like I was saying to you before we started recording, like I disassociate so much from being ill. Like I am, like I'm ill all the time, but actually in my mind I don't think my brain quite allows me to acknowledge it fully. So
Yeah.
actually seeing it in someone else in front of me, and it's like I don't let myself know how bad it is for me. So seeing it in someone else and seeing someone else kind of struggling, like to talk and being like, actually, it, that was really bad what happened to me as well. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like for myself, I shut it down, but when I see it in other people, I have so much empathy. And it's kind of like I should probably give that same empathy to myself sometimes. But yeah,
I'm
I
going to
mean,
be brutally honest because that's the whole point of this podcast, isn't it?
yeah, indeed.
Her speech made me feel really uncomfortable. Not in not in a, like you said, how people will get at her, just in like it's a symptom that I've never really come across. Like it's a, it's a scary one, isn't it? And it I wasn't scared. It just, I don't know, it's uncomfortable was the feeling. It was a bit like, oh, I don't know if I can watch this. Like, can I get past that sort of thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I watched it on my own and watched it with Matthew last night, and I felt that uncomfortableness that you're talking about when we were watching it together, because in my head I'm thinking all sorts of things, and
Yeah.
for me it's kind of, because it's happened to me and I know what it's like to literally not be able to talk. I'm talking perfectly fine now, but during that relapse it was like how she speaks in that, I just could, and she says it later on about not being able to get what's in your brain out of here. And I remember saying that at the time, like, it's such a weird thing to try and explain to someone, like when you can't talk properly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, I watched it with Matt and I was thinking, yeah, like, I don't know, there was slight uncomfortableness, and I
Yeah.
did
Just
like,
because it is so intense, isn't it? That because it's such a no hiding from it symptom.
I was gonna
There's
say,
no,
yeah.
it is so out there. There's no like, oh, it is. I don't know. Like it's just right there. Everyone can notice it, and it just. And I think, like you said, not knowing her like personally, that this like had like how she was trying to like communicate what she was thinking and stuff. I just think it. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain what I mean. It just really made me feel really uncomfortable, but not in like the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%,
Yeah, in like
100%.
the, oh gosh, like this is a lot kind of thing,
I
which I think a
honestly,
lot of people will. I think her speech will be a big one that people will be like, oh, this is hard to watch. Do you think?
yeah, and it does scare people, I think, which I suppose is understandable. I just can't really relate to it, I think, because I'd love written this in the notes later that I was going to ask you, but like, I don't know, I know what it's, I have been so ill with my MS, is in is in bed bound, like in hospital for a week, like, and it's, so I've kind of almost been to the scary place already, so it doesn't scare me too much because I already know. And I remember thinking in hospital, this is what this illness can do, this is bad. Like this, I've never been so, I said to Matt last night, I was like, I've never been so scared as I was in that hospital, like in my whole entire life, because I was so ill. So kind of experiencing that, I think watching things, I'm a bit almost desensitized to it, in that I can disassociate from it, and also I've kind of experienced it, so I kind of know.
Yeah.
But I was saying to Matt, like, people can't, it's so difficult to explain to healthy people of
Mm.
that level of illness, and feeling that ill, and actually feeling like you feel like you're going to die. Like, that's how
Yeah.
I felt when I was in the hospital when I got diagnosed. So I was going to say to you, have you ever been hospitalized, like with your
Mm.
MS? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, people just, you can't explain
Mine
what
was
it
a bit of
feels
a
like.
blur though. Like, don't know. Like, yeah, mine was a bit of a blur, really. I think I sort of, like, your brain, doesn't it? Sometimes, like, doesn't really remember things because it protects you from
Mm.
from what you went through. So
Yeah, 100%. I was saying again, like, I've blocked loads of stuff out. Like, I have like flashbacks, and it was weird actually, because I was having flashbacks of things
mm,
that I haven't thought about for 3 years, like
yeah,
last night. And I was just like, holy shit! Like, some of the stuff that went on in that hospital, and how bad I was, and how on my own. And it's just, yeah, you just can't even explain to someone. Like, I was in there for a week, I think it was. It's
but it
kind of
just
sad.
shows, like, it's interesting, like, how different everyone is. Like you say, like, it's almost like you're a bit desensitized to it, sort of thing. 'Cause you, like, accept the cold reality of what it is. Whereas I
Yeah,
feel like I'm kind of not the opposite, but like the speech bothered me, I think, because I'm like, it's the fear of it's the fear of even more, if that makes sense. Like, I'm like, I already can't really walk. I already, like, can't really control my bladder. Like, there's so much already that is taken from me. I think it's the fear of, like, something else being taken from me that's
yeah.
so, like, such a big impact, you know? So I think that's probably what made me feel uncomfortable. I was like, oh, I don't really want to see this, which is ignorant, but, you know,
No, speech is a big,
honest.
it's a biggie, because like, our illness is invisible a lot of the time, and it's a very
Mm,
kind of obvious, if someone's talking like that, when I was like, it was like I was drunk. It was like I couldn't, it was like I was on drugs, or I'd been drinking, but I was completely sober. It was just my
yeah,
brain was just malfunctioning, and it's kind of like, yeah, but you can't hide it. It's not something, we do such a good job of hiding things all the time, and it's just a symptom that is just, you just can't hide it.
yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, it's wild. I found it really interesting, kind of, I'm skipping ahead here as well, like, but how she was saying about how when she leaves her house, and it was quite obvious, I thought, in the documentary, how much better she seemed in her own environment. And the minute she went out, and like she said at the end, she was like, the minute I walk out of my house, I turn into the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And
Hmm.
it was like, literally, all her symptoms just would like switch on as soon as she was in like a public place or whatever, because of the extra stimulus. And it's weird, because that's something I've noticed in myself recently, not to the same extent, but that I'm actually feeling okay
Yeah,
here at home, and I feel kind of all right, and my MS isn't. And the minute I go out, everything comes on, and I'm like, hang on a minute, I wasn't feeling like this like 20 minutes ago
yeah,
when I was at home. Why is this happening? So it was quite validating in a way, like, knowing that that is a thing. And actually, but I mean, hers was quite extreme, like the difference between
mm.
sort of her at home and her out in public.
But I think, yeah, I found that really relatable because I think at home, but I kind of put that more down to the fact that I'm at home a lot, and I've, like, learned to look after myself at home, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, I've learned to move myself around the house, and, you know, so I do seem more like a better when I'm at home. And then when you're not at home, obviously, it's like unfamiliar ground, sort of thing,
Yeah.
and all the stimulus, like, it's overwhelming. That's why I kind of think I'm worse not at home, because it's just not what I'm used to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you have your own like little routines and stuff at home, and
Yeah, yeah, and I just know what I can manage and stuff, and I know in my head I'm like, I can just crawl up the stairs if I need to, like, you know, like, all the little things where you just, like, manage around the house,
yeah,
and I don't
and
care to try, like, put on a front.
yeah,
Like, the amount of times I, like, lose my balance, like fall into the sofa and do that. And it doesn't matter. I'm at home, I just do it. Whereas if I'm out, I'm probably like more stiff and rigid, trying not to, which is then exhausting me more, which is then in turn making things worse. Like, I think it's like that for me, you know, that like I'm trying harder when I'm not at home.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it takes so much energy just kind of to, you know, not fall, like you say, not fall over and kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
just come across as normal as you fucking can to everyone else when
Yeah.
you're sort of out and about. Yeah, so yeah, that does make sense. Can
My
relate.
the first bit that's what I wrote where I had to like pause it and I just sobbed uncontrollably was the red carpet
Oh
moment.
man.
My God, like, I didn't know that all the so anyone that's like seen the pictures, you know, of her with like Kane on the red carpet, like looking glam. I think I'd seen one photo where she's like, you can kind of tell she's a little bit teary, but that's it. When they all stopped taking photos of
Yeah.
her and cheered for her, oh my God, I could cry just now thinking about it. I was sobbing. I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Like,
You know what, I thought it was just beautiful because and again, it's like, so for me, the way my brain works is that I will relate things to myself to understand other people. So for her, it was like when she cried very publicly, and it was like she sort of had a little cry for however many minutes and then pulled herself together and got on. I was like, that is literally what I do all the time. Like,
yeah.
I just be like, all of a sudden I'm like, and then I'm like, terrified now, and then just carry on like it's all right. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a nice moment, and God, it must have been overwhelming for her.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know how her little cry was so like, you know, what's the word? Like together. I'd have just been like, oh my God, you're all amazing. Like, I'd have just lost it.
loads of snot coming out.
Yeah, I'm like an all or nothing. If I start, I can't stop. Like, I had to literally pause it and just like let it all out. I was like, right,
Yeah,
start again.
yeah, I did. I loved it. I don't know. I thought it was, again, like people saying, oh, you know, she shouldn't be the face. She's not. She's just a person with MS, and
Yeah,
she went
yeah,
out there and just was herself and went try. You know, she's just trying to live her life, and
yeah.
yeah, that bit did make me cry as well.
The bit that I watched that I think was like I mean, a lot of it was relatable, but there's a bit that I watched that I was like, that could literally be me. Was her crawling up the stairs when she had all the stuff, and she was like, "Don't worry, I know what I'm
Yeah.
doing." Like the amount of times to Frank or my mum, like I load myself up and then sort of like use the stair as like an extra, like I just like pull myself up it, and people will be like, are you all right, like do you need some help? I'm like, no, I'm good, I got it,
Yeah,
I got it,
I'm
like it's
absolutely
fine.
fine.
So that I was like, I don't know, I kind of feel like you said, like just I hope people don't watch it and think like, oh, she's just doing that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that was a lot of the problem, that some people would be like, yeah, right, sort of thing. But I do that all, like daily, I reckon. Daily.
yeah. You
Because
can just
for
relate
me,
to
I'm
it
like,
so
there's
far.
no chance in hell I'm gonna go up the stairs twice. That'll
Yeah.
ruin me.
Yes.
So I am gonna put everything in my pockets, my mouth, my hands, and I'm gonna shimmy up the stairs. Because it's better than going
Oh,
back down again.
yeah, yeah, completely. I think that's why I like the documentary though, because it was the moments that people don't see. Like, as cliche as that is, it's like you say, those moments like when you're trying to save yourself a journey, so you've like literally loaded yourself up like a pack horse
Yeah.
to go up the stairs. Like, but that's just our lives. Like, that's just something we do anyway without even really thinking about it. So for it to kind of be on camera and be put out and be like, this is what it's like for
Yeah.
us. Like, yeah, people probably won't believe it necessarily because it's fucking hard and
And
it's wild.
when she went like all out of her son and was playing dodgeball, and then she was like, oh, that killed me. Like the amount of times I've like done that with my niece and nephew, because you know, I want to have fun with them and I want them to have fun with me, and I will like exert myself. And then I'm like, oh God, why did I do that? Like I'm paying for that now. So I
Yeah,
think it was a good insight to show that like we push forward further than we should to stay face, you know?
Yeah,
It's not just it's not always a case of like, oh, 1 minute we're okay, the other we're not, which is like valid for a lot of people. That's MS. But also it is just some kind of a case of sometimes we're just pushing and pretending we're okay when we're not, you know?
yeah, and you could just go and go and go until you just can't go anymore, and then
Yeah.
you go in bed for 2 weeks because you've
Yeah.
completely overdone it.
Mm.
Yeah, no, completely relatable. What else have I written on here? I wrote about just about handwriting. I found that interesting.
Mm.
I was going to ask you about this, right? So when I had that relapse and my right hand just completely stopped working, and I had to teach myself to write again because I couldn't even hold a pen. And when
Yeah.
I first started, I was literally like I can write now, but something that I have noticed is my handwriting changes all the time. So like if even looking through this notepad, it looks like about 3 to 10 different people have been writing in it, but it isn't.
Yeah.
It's me. But it's on any given day. My handwriting is just different because of whatever is broken in there or what was
Yeah,
broken.
my right hand, I can't like I've like straighten my little finger anymore. I've lost it like completely from the really bad relapse I had when I was first diagnosed. But I remember I just started a new job or a new role, and I was training with someone, and they were like, make notes like as we were going, and I just won't ever forget the sheer like embarrassment of how much I was like, please just write, like how she was like struggling to write. This person was like, oh, just make a note of this, 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 and this. And this was before I was diagnosed. Like afterwards, it's easier to say, isn't it? Like, oh, I can't at the moment, I'm struggling. But when you just say, I can't really write, you like, I always felt like I was too afraid to say that because if they'd be like, why? I'd be like, I don't know. Don't know, like
Mm-hmm.
you always say stuff that's not exact. You can't be like, I don't know why I can't write. I just can't write. So, so I was just like going, oh, my handwriting must have been awful. They must have thought, is she okay? Because I was like trying to like just write like click start.
Yeah, see,
That's so bad.
these fingers are like dead to me. So when I'm writing, you sort of rest out, but it's like I
Yeah.
can't really feel that. So it's
Yeah,
like,
that's weird that it's those two because with my relapse in my hand, it's those two as well on mine. That
yeah, it sort of goes like spreads up
yeah,
into the air. But yeah, I thought that was just an interesting point because I remember writing, what is it, the brown fox jumps over the lazy dog or whatever the thing is, over and over and over again, because I was like, because I love writing and I love taking notes, and
yeah,
I couldn't write, my hand didn't work, so I was like, I need to learn to write again, and it
yeah,
took me a while, and there was just sheets of A4 paper at my dad's where I'd been like fucking trying to teach
yeah.
myself to write.
Do you know what they
Wow.
gave me? I say they gave me. You can get it from friggin' anywhere, but they did give me it. Elastic bands.
Mm,
They said like elastic bands are really good to get the like motion back in it and the strength to like put the
okay.
elastic band on and then try stretch it open.
Yeah, that makes sense, to be fair.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember my dad actually giving me loads of things to, because I think he was
Yeah,
just scared that I was never going to be able to use my hand again. I think he was more scared than I was. I didn't really know what was going on at the time, so I was just like, yeah, whatever, I'll have that. But yeah, I've put here as well about announcing it, because obviously she did her announcement, didn't she, on social media or whatever.
mm.
And I don't, have we ever talked about this? Like, who did you tell first, and like, how did you tell people, and what was that like for you?
Do you know what? I can't overly remember. Like I know that I told so like my mum and dad and Frank would have known first
Hmm.
from like coming and being at the hospital and stuff like that. Um, but the first person that I remember outside of that, this is so stupid. The first person that I told from hospital, so I went into the toilet and rang this person and just blared down the phone at them. And it was my boss that had been my new boss for the last, I don't know, 3 months. I barely knew. But he was like, we'd made really good friends. Like, he was actually one of the people that when I couldn't walk, he was like, oh, go to hospital, Sam. And I was like, I can't just go to hospital and be like, I can't walk. Like, what's wrong with me? Anyway, he was like really encouraging at like getting to the bottom of what was going on and stuff. And I think because he was so sweet, And the way I was clearly programmed back then, my first thought was obviously work, which is not the healthiest thing. But so I was in hospital and I rang him and I was like, I've got MS. And he was like, I don't know what that is. Like, and I don't really remember the conversation we had. He was lovely. But yeah, he was the first person that I rang in the hospital toilets and told. So shout out to Adam Green. Not that he'd ever listen to
Hey,
this,
he
but
sounds like a
he was incredible. He was so
yeah. I
lovely.
was gonna say,
He was a young boss as well, which I'm not saying that doesn't help, but like, you know, we did get along. He was really lovely.
yeah,
But
he
then
sounds like
apart
a
from
good
that, I don't remember, like, because I was diagnosed in 2015, even though social media was obviously it was big back then. I don't know. I feel like a lot has changed in the last 6 years. It is
yeah,
even more vocal. And so when I was first diagnosed, I didn't have like anyone online, you know, that I could reach out to or talk to or anything. I found one blog post. I can't remember now who it was by. I'm sure I've spoken about it before, that I could relate to, and that was kind of it. So I think for a good like 2 or 3 years, I just sort of like muddled through it on my own, I'd say.
did you did you ever feel like you needed to hide it from people, like as in like you
Um,
actively didn't want people to know about it? Because that's something I can't, I know people that like, I haven't told anyone, and I'm literally
no,
like, well, I can't, I just wanted everyone to know straight away because I didn't want to have to tell people. So
yeah.
I
I think
wrote a
I
massive
said
post.
I would have told like my friends and stuff like that when I saw them and stuff like that. I don't remember how it got wider afield. I think like you, because like it was never a secret. It just did. And also at the time in my previous role, I did a lot of fundraising and stuff like that for them, like not for them, but with them. And so like my old team that I used to work with pretty quickly were like, let's fundraise the MS Trust. And they kind of put me as like the face of it almost. So I think it
Mm,
just kind of got out because it wasn't a secret to me. And at
yeah.
work, I probably wasn't at work. There was a few people that I told. I didn't not want to tell people, but it came out because I had a bit of time off after that. And then when I came back, I had a few people be like, "Oh, were you off with stress? Like, is that why you were off and stuff?" So I just told them. They were like, "Oh, okay." And then of course
Yeah.
I had some people be like, well, I say some people, one person, I've definitely spoken about him before, that douchebag that I worked with that was like, oh, is that motor neurons disease? And still to this, well, I don't really talk to him anymore, but for years after that would always talk to me like Stephen Hawking's. I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
that is
yeah.
so unbelievably offensive.
Yeah, just wow.
I
Like,
know. So yeah. But yeah, it just kind of, yeah, I don't remember. It just kind of was public knowledge. Like I said,
yeah,
because I didn't care. Like I was happy for
yeah.
people to know.
Yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to know, because I do know some people that, you know, have actively hidden it, whereas I was the opposite. I just remember, right, because obviously my right hand didn't work. I remember writing with my left hand, trying to type,
Mm.
and wrote this big long post, and it was so fucking ill and tired, but I just wanted people to know what was going on with me, so I didn't have to fucking tell
Yeah.
everyone individually. Like,
Yeah, I don't think I posted it because when I can't remember what year I set it up, because like I said, I didn't really know where to go to on social media. I think people just knew, but when we first started speaking, it was a private account, wasn't it, that I had? And like I declined anyone that I knew in real life from accessing that account because I needed that space to be like brutally honest without people being like, yeah, okay, Han,
yeah,
or like thinking that I was like looking for pity. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And so I had that for a long time until I got to the point where I am now, and I'm like, it is what it fucking is. Deal with it.
Wait, how did I find you then? Like, if your profile was private? Because I
um,
remember finding you and just watching you for a
I
bit and
mean,
being
it
like, oh,
was
that's
called
her.
I Don't Look Sick.
Yeah,
So I'm guessing like because if I probably followed a lot of like MS people,
yeah,
maybe we
maybe.
just started following. Like I would have accepted you because I was like, you know, she's not gonna message, you know, like it was just people in real life at that time that I didn't want seeing it.
Yeah.
Although interestingly, I can say this because I know that they'll never listen to it because they won't know about it. Still on Chronically Sam, my mum, my sister, and my niece and nephew, and maybe like are all blocked from it. They don't
Oh,
know it
really?
exists. Only because they're still the only people that I just don't want them to be like worried, because
Yeah.
sometimes I want to say something and I'm okay, like, or even if I'm not okay, I'm dealing with it. And that's easier for me to explain to my friends than it is like my mum and my family as such. Because I feel like they'll just be like, oh, like they'll worry. And that is not my intention with it. So they just don't know it exists. Or I think maybe my mum just assumes it's the original private one, you know?
Yeah.
She doesn't know that like every fucker else is on it. I'm dreading one day because like one of my old bosses is like good friends with her, that she says, oh, did you see what's, and she'll be like, no.
You're like, what?
I'll be like, don't take it personally, mum.
Yeah, no, that's completely understandable. Yeah, no, I just written that because I couldn't remember what you'd said about kind of telling people. And
I kind of feel the same as you. Like I heard you say on one of the Shift MS videos about how, this probably isn't your exact wording, but how at times you'll be like, hi, I'm Katt, I have MS. Like you just like to get it out there sort of
oh,
thing. I'm
yeah.
exactly the same. And I know some people will be so anti that, but for me, my MS like isn't that invisible. Like it's, you know, like a lot of my issues aren't invisible symptoms, like cognitive and that. Like I'd say my cognitively I'm, you know, I'm okay. Most of mine is visible, which is why I like to get it out there, because it stops the funny stares and the like, why are you walking like that? Or why do you need to sit down? Or why do you need to know where the toilet, like all those things that people, because people aren't just automatically kind. I like to sort of like say, you know, oh, this is the deal, so be nice.
Yeah, yeah, honestly, I'm exactly the same. And that, yeah, and like I say, some people try and hide, like, it's like it's weird because I try and hide my symptoms, the more visible ones, but equally I will just, like you say, just put it out there and be like, just in case one of them pops up or something happens or I'm acting weird or
I just find it easier to move through life, people knowing, you
yeah.
know?
And yeah, so much I could talk about surrounding that, to be honest.
Yeah. And
I'm
like
trying not to go off on tangents here.
I went away at the weekend, and I know this is such a minor example of it, but like obviously I went away with my friends that have been my friends since we were like 13, so they do know. But like we were playing a game, and like each card had a different like do this on, you know? It was just like, I can't remember what they were now. Do this, do that, do this. But anyway, one of my friends, I was like sat on the sofa, they were all like up dancing, and she came and just put this book down beside me. And I was like, she didn't say anything. She just like put this book on the side of the sofa and carried on dancing and prattling around. And I was just like, weird, whatever. And then she was like, oh, it's my turn to read out my card. And she was like, last person to touch something blue has to drink. Like she was like, run. And the book was blue. So she'd gone out of her way to like put something close to me that was blue. But you know, but not make a big deal about it. Not
That's
be
so
like, yeah,
cute.
not be like, oh, I've given this to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, not this savior
Yeah.
complex of like, look what I've done for you. And even after she said it, she didn't comment on it like, oh yeah, I did that for you. I just sort of smiled at her. I was, you know, because rather than then like it being like, well, obviously Sam's gonna have to drink. She's not gonna have to run as quick as you lot. She's just like put it in front of me. So I feel like that's like a smaller example of like, it's just easier if people know, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, mate, my heart, honestly.
I
So
know, it was
sweet.
really sweet of her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I did. Yeah, like, you know, I, my speech even still now is a bit dodgy. Like, it's obviously recovered so much, you know, I couldn't talk like this, but sometimes that comes out, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't want people to, you know, it's just easier to just sort of be like this. I'm
Yeah.
really ill, so like if there's anything weird that comes up, that's why. But you know,
But I guess it's personal preference, isn't it? Because a lot of
yeah,
people prefer
definitely.
to keep it to themselves. And I don't think there is a right or wrong with it. I think
No.
you've got to do what you feel comfortable doing.
Yeah, I agree, but I think, yeah, like, I mean, for me it was, I was going to say this when we were just talking about announcing it, it was almost like I was just like, actually, everyone, I've been saying for a long time there's been something not right with me, and actually it was something quite bad. So, ha
Yeah.
ha ha, I was right. I mean,
Yeah.
not ha 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 because it's bad times, but also I'm not mental, and I that was the label, and that I still
Yeah.
have to this day. That I'm a little bit unstable or whatever. It's like, no, I just was really sick for a very long time and dealing with it, and it may have come across as me being unstable, but I think anyone that has dealt with MS knows that it's fucking difficult. And yeah, it was quite nice nice and a relief to be able to be like, I've got loads of brain damage, which is why I am the way I am and have been for a long time. So yeah, and I know that was a thing with Selma as well, and that it was her saying, and I remember, like, she'd obviously had a son and everything, and people were like, oh, what's wrong with her, kind of thing. She's,
Yeah.
she's a bad parent, she's, she can't walk, she, like, all this different stuff.
And
And
the bit on the plane where TMZ were like, Selma's on drugs because she's saying that her legs are on fire.
mm,
And I was like, oh, that is brutal. Like the amount of times I say, like, oh, my legs are on fire, like from nerve pain. They're
I've
like,
got it at the moment, all of this part
yeah,
of my arm just feels like it's a burn. It, like,
you're on
literally
drugs.
feels
Like
like a
she's
burn.
obviously on drugs, like saying,
Yeah.
oh, like legs are on fire.
Yeah, yeah, I could relate to that so much, and all the doctors dismissing her, and the classic, oh,
Mm,
you're anxious, you're stressed,
yeah.
you've just had a baby, of course it's going to be stressful. And actually, and there was, oh, where is it, this is the bit that made me cry. If I start crying, please do excuse me.
I'm really
The bit
interested if it's going to be the same thing. Go on.
she put, I can't get it together, I hate myself. And that was how I felt in 2017. I remember saying to my mum, send me away. I was like, I've gone crazy, I have lost the plot. And a lot of I have loads of lesions all over my brainstem, which is a lot of, I can't even explain it. Like, I don't even really know what label to give it, but it's like the confusion and panic and the emotional impact those lesions have on me. And it was like, in my head, everyone was saying, you are fine, Katt. What the fuck? And in my head, I was like, but I'm not. But why can I not? If I am fine, why
Mm,
can't I get it together? And I was trying so hard. And it was like, obviously I was so ill, and this was a nasty relapse. And it was like, I remember ringing my mother and being like, you need to send me to some kind of rehab centre because I have gone crazy. I don't know what the hell is going on with me. I can't sleep. All this weird stuff is happening. And I hated myself. I was so angry at myself and turned it all in on me. And her talking about that and saying, it was just that sentence, I can't get together. Like, I hate myself. That was just exactly how I felt for a long time, because none of it made any sense. And everyone was saying to me, there's nothing wrong with you. And I believed it. I believed it was all me. So yeah, I mean, what had you written? What bit did you think I was going to say just then?
no, that's not the bit, but it's interesting, like you said, when someone says something that is so true in your heart, it just doesn't it? It just
Mm-hmm.
triggers the flood works. That's not the word, is it? Is that the word? Makes you cry.
Yeah, yeah.
No, the bit that I really struggled with, and I was like, cried my eyes out, was her saying, when you're not dying, you say, oh, I feel like I'm dying, when you actually feel like you're dying. All you can really say is, oh, I'm a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I, whew,
Got
whew,
goosebumps, mate.
yeah, I was like, ain't that relevant? Because, we're not being dramatic, like you said, like, have laid there and thought, this is it, like, is this actually like what dying feels like? And it's so true. When things are mega shit, you can be like, oh my God, I feel like I'm dying. But it's something else to actually feel that way. And
It's
you can't bring yourself to say those words. You wouldn't be so
Yeah,
flippant about it,
yeah. It's like almost like such a passive thing. Like, it's like, that's what I think about when I was in hospital, and it was like, like I say, I was the most scared, the most ill I think I've ever been. I couldn't even keep my head up. Like, I kept slipping in and out of consciousness, and all I could really think was just sort of like, this isn't great, is it? Like, but you just sort of carry on, like, almost, because I don't know, it's so difficult to explain. Like, it's not a dramatic thing, it's almost like a weird acceptance of it. But yeah,
although
your brain,
my like moment, I'd probably say that makes me think of it the worst with that is MS related, but not necessarily. It's like a knock-on effect from my MS, because it's after I had Lemtrada and I got a kidney infection and I'd had steroids, and they say that just mixes badly, doesn't it, if you take steroids and then you have a UTI that gets worse, whatever. And I had to go to hospital, and all the way there they were saying to me in the ambulance that I had sepsis, and I just was laying there just thinking, I'm gonna die. And it was the weirdest fit. Like, I was like, I'm gonna die. It's like, you hear sepsis, don't you? And it's like really scary. And they're like, she hasn't got much of an immune system. We think she's got sepsis, like radioing it in. And I was like,
oh shit.
and literally in my head, I was like, thinking, I can't.
Yeah, mate, I could, because it's like, you don't, like you say, you would think that you'd be shouting and it would be almost like a panic, like, oh my god, I'm dying, kind of thing. But it isn't. Like, it's the opposite. You almost
As if
sort of
I'm
like,
fucking crying.
hey, you're allowed to cry. I'm surprised I haven't cried yet.
I never cry on this. Oh, change the conversation.
Okay, we'll
Anyway.
move on.
Move on.
Yeah, actually, I'd written about that bit as well.
Yeah, well, when you said earlier about the feels like dying, I was like, oh, she so would have made a note about her saying that then.
Yeah, and it's weird as well, because like, you can be so poorly but actually still function to a point. So it's almost like, I don't know, like, yeah, I put here, you're so sick but you can still function. And it was like, that was what was, like, you know, past relapses when I wasn't diagnosed. I look back on it and I think, how the fuck did I do that? Like,
I know.
Like, how crazy I felt. And I just managed to sort of adapt. And yeah, I mean, like, what she, like, you know, like what she was doing when she had her son, and she was carrying on and trying and trying and trying, because you can, with MS, you can, you know, in some people's cases, you can still function to a point. And it almost like covers up actually the extent of how ill we can get. And it's weird.
Yeah.
I can't even really put it into words. I think if you haven't got MS, you probably don't understand what I'm even trying to sort of
But then
explain here.
The whole like recordings of all the HSCT and stuff, like, I didn't think was nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be. You know,
No.
obviously I'm not like, I don't mean like as in like, oh, I was a walk in the park for it, but it wasn't as scary as what I thought it was, or that I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, when I watch stuff like that, it's just one more medical thing, and I just think, again, like, I've not even just with my MS, obviously I've spent time in with that, and but also like my spinal injury, and then also going to rehab and all that, like, so much medical trauma. And again, it's almost like that kind of stuff I don't think about, in that I just think I have to do it and get through it, and there's no question. It's not a am I going to, am I not, it's just a you just go and just sort of keep going forward with it. And that was how I was, you know, with my diagnosis, my injury, and the rehab thing, coming off that drug, the trifecta of fucking shitness. And it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't, almost like I didn't even make decisions. It was just keep going. That was literally the only thing in my mind. It was weird. I can't remember where I was going with this point.
But yeah, I think that was probably what made me reluctant originally to watch it, because I was like, HSCT isn't stable for me. So I was like, do I want to watch it? You know, because one person's experience isn't necessarily everyone's experience. That's what made me a little bit reluctant. But I don't think there wasn't really that much shown, but I put that down to the fact that because she was in isolation, she was having to film it herself on her phone. I should imagine she was too poorly to film loads, wasn't she?
Yeah.
That's why.
It was quite, yeah, it was very condensed actually.
But I should think it's because of that, isn't it? Because you know what it's like when you are
Mhm.
so ill.
Yeah, you just
It's
can't.
never going to happen. You can't pick your phone up and record it. So I don't blame, you know, I think that that's understandable because she probably didn't have the energy, or she probably
Mm.
physically was not well enough to record a lot of it. So,
Yeah, stem cell is wild though. It is very invasive, and I think people don't really realise that either. Like, if you don't know that much about it, it's just oh, you just have a stem cell. It's like no, 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 no.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
chemotherapy and having stem cell transplant is not nice. And I know, but even that's what I mean. I know how I reckon I'd be okay with it because I've been in that dark place with other things before, in with that kind of passive feeling like I might die. Like
yeah.
it's almost like that's why I would be okay with it. I mean, I came out of hospital convinced that that was what I wanted because I was so scared of how ill I was. I was like, this illness is wild.
Mm.
So yeah, but then kind of as I recovered from that relapse, I was kind of like, okay, maybe I don't need to fly to Russia and have a stem cell transplant immediately. But yeah, I mean, it's an intense treatment, and
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
actually kind of glad they didn't show too much of it.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe.
really want to know because then if it is a route I have to go down, I'd rather just live it.
Well, I kind of know through people. I've been close
Yeah.
to people who've had stem cell transplants, and I know how bad it is and
Mhm.
how difficult it is. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's not nice watching people in
No,
pain and
no.
very poorly. So yeah,
What I found interesting though, that I don't know anything about, is that so it was a bit disappointing, not at them. It's just the way it is, isn't it? That it kind of had to be slightly cut short because filming had to stop because COVID hit.
yeah,
Because I would have liked to have seen more of her like recovery, but
yeah.
the talk of grey matter at the end, I found that really interesting because I've never really heard that before, you know? Like, I'm sure she said, didn't she, that HSCT had only helped her to an extent at that time. I didn't, like I said, her recovery will continue because the bit where her speech, I don't know, part of what she was affected by was damage to the grey matter part of her brain. And so that is like, well, it's all irreversible, but do you know what I mean? Like, that was really severe.
Well, that interested me because I remember when I was first ever diagnosed, I'm so sure he said to me on the phone, you have lesions in the grey and white matter of your brain. But I've never seen that written anywhere. Or
No,
I might have it on a doctor's notebook.
yeah.
But I want to look into that more,
What
and
is the
also
difference?
yeah, and also I was thinking about this as well. Like, I would love to say to a neurologist, like, what is your opinion on my MS? Like, my specific MS, like where my lesions are, how ill I get, my relapse, every single thing that makes my personal MS, because that's not something that they really give, because they
Mm.
don't have time. They don't have the resource and time to give this to every single person. But I would love to get like a really in-depth kind of review on my specific MS and how it
Yeah.
affects me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. But yeah,
Like where my lesions are, because all the stuff like with my brainstem, that's all stuff that I kind of figured out on my own. And it was only
yeah,
last year I got a letter confirming it, and I was like, ha, fucking Dr. Katt, she knew what fucking was going on with her lesion placements and why I have the symptoms I have, just because of the research I've done. But no one's ever actually sat down and said, you have this symptom because you've got damage here. And I know there sometimes neuros do that with their patients, but that's just not something that I've ever had. And I would be so interested to sit down with the neurologist for a couple of hours and really dig into my MS
yeah,
and
and be like, let's talk.
yeah, tell me about
Yeah.
like how bad is it, doctor? Like, do you know what I mean? But yeah, I found that interesting, and that is something I want to look into, actually, the kind of difference and
Mm.
how that works
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, because I thought, I was like, is that a prime case of like money? Like, has she had access to like, I know it's in America, so it's different anyway, but like a private neurologist that's, like you said, has had time to sit and go through it with her, sort of
Yeah,
thing. So I just thought,
I,
I don't
I
really
would say
know
so, probably, yeah.
what the difference is. The problem is, that I always find, off the back of stuff like this, I feel like, and this, I could, to be honest, I could have just made this up in my head, but I feel like neurologists, doctors, MS specialists, not get their back up a bit, but get a bit eye rolly if people start asking questions off the back of stuff like this.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they'll be like, say for example, if I was like, oh, do I have any damage on my grey matter? Like, I haven't asked them, but if I did, I feel like they'd be like, if I said, oh, because I watched this, they'd just be like, oh, don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah, they'd be like,
you
that's
know,
not
like they'll
important.
dismiss it, sort of thing.
That's not relevant. And it's like, it kind of is. So,
Yeah. And also, it's going to create a surge of people that are going to be like, can I have HSCT?
mm-hmm.
And in a way, it's fantastic that it's sort of showing people what is out there, but selfishly in a way as well, because I'm on my 4th DMD, that stuff hasn't been working. It's like not a far stretch, you know, like I shouldn't take it off the table, but
Mm-hmm.
it's such a hard thing to get through on the NHS
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like, I don't want to be like swept into the, not the trap, but you know, like if neurologists are being like, you're just asking about that now because everyone else is, because you've seen it. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'm asking about it because 6 years in, I'm just getting worse, and every DMT you give me is not working.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like I have reason to. I worry that it's, you know, I don't know, which is like selfish, I know, but
No, it's not selfish at all. Not
I think
selfish at all.
it's like the medical professionals' fault, isn't it? Because they'll just think, rather than be like, oh, it's brought to light, you know, people are interested, they'll just be like, oh, they're just asking about that because they've watched that, you know. I can't remember what it was before, but there was something like a few years back that was announced, and I remember asking my MS nurses about it, and they were like, oh, don't worry, like you're just asking that because it was on dispatch or whatever it was, you know, and they totally dismissed it. I think that's where I've got it from. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I still want to know the answer. Like,
Yeah. This is the thing, and that neuros are like, oh, we don't want you to get too hung up on how many lesions you have or where. And it's like, yeah, but I want to know because that's my brain. Like, I want to know how many
yeah,
lesions are
you
on
want
my
to
brain. I want to know
understand.
where the placement is of the lesions and how that correlates to my symptoms. I know it's not like, you know, that clear cut all the time, but I know that you probably have a relatively good idea as to roughly why this is happening. Like, do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like, rather than just being like, you know, we try not to focus on them,
yeah.
but it's like, but why not? Like, because you probably should. I don't. That's just my opinion, though. I
Mm,
don't know. I remember saying to my neuro, like, is there a lot of lesions? Like, and he was like, no, not really. And actually looking at my brain, like, there's fucking loads of them. And I'm like, how many do you count as a lot, hun? Like, because
yeah,
you sort of dismissed me when I asked you that question. But I don't, but I think a lot of it is that they just don't know. So they can't
yeah.
really
That's true.
say.
Yeah, yeah. They don't want to tell you something if they don't know it to be 100% fact.
But this is the thing as well, like, as in, like, obviously, I'd written there, the NEDA, however you pronounce it, NADA.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No evidence of disease activity. Like, actually, that doesn't mean anything. In the My neuro told me, like, the last time, you know, I went to the relapse clinic or whatever after Murphy died and I was really ill for like 12 weeks and my fucking, you know, whatever.
Mm.
And he sent me a letter and was like, your MS is in remission. And as much as I know that I know when my MS is particularly active and I can feel it.
Yeah,
Like, it's not even like with my symptoms, it's like I feel it, it's a feeling in my brain, and I can't explain it. Like, I
yeah,
just know when I'm either in a relapse or I'm heading into one or whatever. But the kind of no evidence of disease activity, like, you know, for example, Selma had no new lesions. Okay, but that doesn't mean that her MS has disappeared forever. And the way they sort of judge our illness, because they don't have another way of sort of, oh, what's the word, say brain fog, of like they have to have markers. So you know, like with the whole, do you qualify for a DMD? Which I just think is a joke. I think if you've got MS, you qualify, in my opinion. But it's like you've got to have X amount of lesions, and you know, they only count it as a relapse if there's new lesions on your MRI. When the two just don't correlate, you know, like, you know, Selma had, you know, no evidence of disease activity, but she was still very, very sick, like after her stem cell transplant.
Yeah.
So doctors kind of being like, you're fine, your MS is in remission. And it's like, no, I still feel like absolute dog shit every single day. Like bits of my body aren't working. So if you want to call that remission, I guess you can. But for me, I wouldn't class it as remission. Remission to me would be me being completely fine. Oh, like, you know, it's sort of going away, but it just doesn't do that. And I feel like the no evidence of disease activity is all well and good. But, you know, I have no evidence of disease activity since being on Ocrevus, but my MS has got worse. I would say I'm worse because it is a progressive illness. Even though it hasn't shown up on an MRI, I'm noticeably worse, even in comparison to last year. Like things like my grip, my speech, my fatigue, it's just gone down like a little bit. And, you know, that hasn't been on a scan for me to look at and see, but I know it. And it's the only way they can measure our MS because they don't know how else to do it.
Did you tell me this, or did I hear you say it, or did I read it somewhere else? Is there talks that they're going to drop the remitting part of relapse and remitting?
Yeah.
Did I hear you say this?
Someone told me that. I think it was the Shift MS.
I was going to say, was it on the Shift MS thing?
Yeah, two of the ladies on the Shift MS
I hope they do.
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I. Because our MS is never in fucking remission.
Yeah.
It's just silent. And
well,
it's
I was going to say, remitting makes it sound like up, doesn't it? Like it's gone. It's okay now, you know?
Yeah. For me, that would be proper remission. Like I say, you know, my neuro, I've got a letter that says I'm in remission right now. And it almost gives the illusion that you're fine. Like, yeah, your MS has completely gone away for now. And it's like, no, it just isn't like crippling me to the point that I can't get out of bed, but still it's to a point, but like, yeah, I can't remember who said that, so someone's just messaging
me. Do we want to do a part 2 of this? I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah, because I've got loads more notes.
That's what I was thinking.
Or my 10 different people have written all these different notes on it. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things. Yeah, I think we could.
Yeah, we could do this as a part 1, couldn't we? And do a part 2 as well.
Yeah, I think what I liked about watching this is that it's given us loads of talking points as well to kind of discuss about our own MS. And I think it was a positive documentary. And I just hope that.
Yeah, I would recommend people to watch it. I really enjoyed it, and I probably will rewatch it as well at some point.
Yeah, well, I've got it on my computer now. Don't tell anyone else. So yeah, I can watch it whenever I want. And yeah, I mean, like watching it twice actually was quite good because the first time obviously it's very emotional and you're sort of very much sort of in it, like. But actually watching it again last night, I sort of could take it a bit of a step back from it and then kind of figure out some of my own things. I don't know, it's like when you watch a film, it's like, I don't know, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. First time you watch it, like, oh, this is an amazing film. You watch it again, the more times you watch it,
detail and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, you watch it again, mate, and then we'll come back and talk.
And then we'll do a part 2. Yeah, we'll do a part 2, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe should we just wrap it up for there then and be like, to be continued?
Yeah, for sure. I was we'll save my notes. I'll save my notes.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to our like rambles. I don't know. Sometimes when we're talking like this, I'm just like, I feel like we're just talking, you know? And then I'm like, oh, we are being recorded. I hope what we said was like coherent.
Yeah, I feel it has been very I've liked this episode. I don't even know what episode it is. Episode how many have we done, mate? I'm not sure.
We'll have to have a look. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure. But we'll call this part 1, and then to be continued.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. And any comments and feedback and your own opinions on the documentary if you've seen it, be very interested to hear.
Cool. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.